When Moloch launched 27 years ago, it was with a view to change the way the individual interacts with waste, to encourage better diversion, to encourage more use, to make sure that as we as individuals interact with a waste container, it's a better experience. It's not something that's dirty, it's not smelly, the lid lifts easily. You're likely to do what it's asking you to do, which is separating our organics from our waste and separating our recycling from both of those two. People tend to do what's right.
The beauty of the Moloch container was that we could always find a space for it without having to redesign the whole project.
For 34 years, Brian Page was the supervisor of site development for the City of Kitchener. Any development project subject to planning review, multi-residential, industrial, commercial or institutional, went through him and his team.
One of the problems that we had with site development, architects or developers, the last thing they thought about was where they're going to contain their waste and recycling. And they had to try and fit it in on site. They'd actually even come to the site development meetings and had totally forgotten. I'd say, where's your waste and recycling? And their jaw would just drop. So when Moloch came along, when I first found out about it, it was basically a godsend because it only used 5% of the space in comparison to putting up a building and putting in a front load container. And once the development industry learned that not only it used less space, it was less expensive to install, it also saved them money in the number of pickups that they were going to have to do because it self-compacts and holds more. So it was a total win for us and for the development industry. And from the end user's perspective, they had less number of pickups, so they were paying less for their garbage pickup. And it allowed us also to be more creative on where we could put the waste and recycling containers. We could make them very handy to the back door instead of putting them in the back corner. So again, it's a win-win-win by using these containers.
Moloch believes that making its containers convenient, accessible, and attractive is the best way to encourage better waste diversion and so promote environmental sustainability. And to make sure the Moloch containers are as sustainable as they can be, the company has partnered with the Earth Rangers, a children's conservation organization which runs a Centre for Sustainable Technology in Vaughan, Ontario.
So Earth Ranger Centre is really a hub for a lot of new technologies that are not so prevalent in the commercial office sector. We have geothermal systems, we have solar photovoltaic trackers that track the sun. We also have earth tubes, which harness the constant temperatures on the earth. Moloch is a building sponsor of ours. They're one of the many technologies we exhibit at the Earth Ranger Centre. We have 3 Molochs, one for waste, one for recycling, and one for organics.
The Moloch bins are fantastic because a big thing for us is capacity. These guys behind us are 6.5 cubic yards each with a very little footprint because they go 5 feet into the ground. Previously we had a 4 cubic yard bin, 2 of those in a conditioned room. Problem with that is that it takes up valuable real estate inside of our building, it takes up energy. Our previous bins were collected weekly because of this smaller volume. These bins are collected every 2 weeks. Less pickups means less emissions from the trucks, which is what we stand for.
We're doing a study for Moloch North America right now. We've put temperature sensors into the Moloch bins to measure how constant are the temperatures year-round in the Moloch container. And as well, we measure the odors coming from it. So we have odor meters that measure certain particulates that are known to produce odors. The more constant we can keep the temperature, especially during the summer months, the less often we have to pick up due to decomposition of the organics especially. During the winter months, you don't want especially organic material to freeze. If it freezes, it gets stuck and then you don't have a full pickup. It ends up being in there until the summer. The Moloch container really keeps a constant temperature at the very bottom of the bin, especially around about 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. At most times, it is actually cooler than our conditioned waste room. And there are no odors emanating from directly outside the Moloch that we found from any test that we've done so far. So it doesn't attract the pests a normal bin would that sat outside.
Back at its Mount Forest headquarters, the Moloch team is working every day to make sure that the 27-year-old innovation is keeping up with the expectations of modern users and businesses.
The main product itself really hasn't changed a lot. The idea and the concept of Moloch being the semi-underground waste containment is solid. We don't need to change the actual idea of the product. So we just constantly are looking at improving simplifying, looking to evolve the components that are related to the product and just make the whole thing better for the user.
We use a lot of recycled material as well as a lot of raw material, which then is recyclable. Over 90% of our material is recyclable, so it can be reused in our own production or recycled and used for future things down the road. Over the years, we've increased the amount of recycled materials we use, as well as always looking for new materials that are recyclable or recycled to use in our product, so that we're always improving environmentally.
You can never develop a good product without really good people behind it. At the end of the day, R&D has to be a collaboration of everyone's thoughts. And the team here at Moloch is good because we have awesome people at the top that understand the need for developing products. Then you have the production side of things. Those guys are spectacular, you know. And then we have our sales staff that always look for the need of the customer, the need of the end user. And then we take everything for our production side, what is actually feasible, what works best. It takes all those team members to actually make that ideal product that works best for everybody.
As Moloch North America looks forward to another 20 years, the world is under more pressure than ever before to up its sustainability game. If we're to stand a chance of slowing the effects of climate change, we all need to take action every day to make the world a better place.